It's Friday, and I'm back with the next in our Fanzine Friday series. Today we take a look at Dungeon Chronicle number 3. Please stick around. I'm AZ Mountaineer, and this is our channel, Old School Rules, where we celebrate the community of old school gamers and grognards who like classic RPGs, miniatures, magazines, and everything that goes with it. Each week on the Fanzine Friday series, I take a fanzine from my collection off the shelf for a closer look. Today, that's Dungeon Chronicle number 3 from 1977. Hope you enjoyed the video. This week, we continue with our look at the fanzine called Dungeon Chronicle. Now, we've been doing that for the last couple of weeks. This week, we are on Dungeon, it's now titled The Dungeon Chronicle. This is issue number 3. It's from 1977. This one looks like it's primarily the responsibility of one of the gamers from this group called Fritz Fleming. As I've mentioned before, this fanzine is put together by a gaming group called the Sword and Sorcery Society of Colombia, Missouri. And it looks like a different member takes responsibility each issue to pull the issue together. You look at the take a look at the cover. This is Kevin McCauley. He did the art for the last one. He does the art for the Kobold comic that's at the end. Now, this one is titled A Friendly Argument with a Silk Merchant. And then it says at the bottom, Fritz Fleming. And as I mentioned, these are photocopied on 8.5 by 11 paper. And often the tops or bottoms are a little off-centered and they cut parts off on the photocopies. So I'm not sure who the other person was that was supposed to get credit for this one. They had an introduction page and a table of contents, but I've reprinted it here for you. 5 people contribute this time. Combat by weapon, and that's done by Fritz, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Then Merchants by Kevin McCauley. More Monsters, and that's by a guy named Russell Somers. Maid School, Kevin McCauley. Other Worlds, Fritz Fleming. Game Review, and that's for the Lord of the Rings 5 Armies game. And then New Naval Rules to have naval combat in your D&D game. And then the Klutzo Kobold comic. And the Naval Rules, by the way, are by Joe Vaughn. And they also mentioned that someone named Tom Geen, maybe that's supposed to be Green, it's a typo, I'm not sure, helped with the naval material. So the first thing we have is combat by weapon, and essentially they talk about the fact that in the Greyhawk rules there were adjustments based for weapons based on armor class. And this is essentially just a chart where they've taken all the weapons and their adjustments, taken your first level to hit tables essentially, and given you all of these base level. And then they've got a note on the second page about what happens when you go up in levels and how you get adjustments to your to hit die. Merchants is a set of charts for random tables, and so you roll 2 8-sided dice to determine what type of generally what type of merchant it is: foodstuffs, clothing, hardware, slaves, secondhand items, or luxury items. And then you go to the chart for each of those and roll to get more specific detail about what would be randomly generated for the merchants in your campaign. I think those kind of things are always fairly helpful. They even have a nice little chart. They say for the thieves in your group, in case you wanted to try and rob or pickpocket a merchant, what type of money, gems, etc. they might have on them that you could get your hands on. As well as how likely it is for them to have some type of bodyguards, how many, etc. Bodyguards tend to be with those types of merchants. So I thought that was well thought out. Then we have new monsters. And this one is rather extensive. You can see from the list here at the top, there's probably about 15 or so new monsters listed here. I won't get into some of them that are more common or show up in later monster manual books for Dungeons & Dragons, but I will talk about the ones that are somewhat new. The first one is the Amphisbaenia. It's a creature from legend. It's basically a 2-headed snake. They call it a 2-headed dragon, where it basically has a head on each end of its body. The Puppet Master is an alien type creature that basically gets onto your back and puts tentacles into you and takes control of your body. You can get rid of it by heat. Otherwise, if you try to kill it with other type of monsters, when it dies, it will destroy the host, which in this case, probably your character or an NPC that you care about. The Kappas is a pea green monkey with a turtle shell. It's an amphibious creature, has a dip, sort of bowl-like indentation on top of its head. It usually has water in it, and somehow if the water gets knocked off, they lose most of their hit points. Their armor class goes down. They become very easy to kill. Something called a stinger worm, and it's about 30 feet long. And I don't know if this is a typo. This doesn't make any sense to me. It's a 30-foot-long worm with a 100-foot-long stinger. It seems like the thing would be dragging that stinger around like crazy. So I'd probably adjust the relative size of those things. But anyway, that's the stinger worm. It'll sting you, obviously poison, cause paralysis and death. The Third Eye Men are a group of chaotic humanoids that have an extra eye in the forehead, and they can use that eye to basically paralyze you. There's a type of bird called a blood kite. Reminds me of a new monster I saw in one of the fanzines we looked at a few months ago. And they basically, these birds will dive and go for your eyes. And so there's a chance, a 50% chance if they hit you, there's a 50% chance they kill you. If you don't get instantly killed, I guess the beak goes through the eye to the brain. And then there's a 35% chance that you lose an eye, permanent blindness in one of your eyes. So that's pretty horrible. The Capellan Power Cat is basically a large lynx, and it has sort of electricity through its body, and so there's a chance to give you shocking damage whenever you're hit. The Ice Golem is essentially just another golem. They said most akin to the stats of a stone golem, but they're obviously made out of ice, particularly susceptible to fire and not susceptible at all, of course, to cold attacks. Devil Dogs, large dogs, their howl will cause fear, and their attack, bite, scratch would cause, say, versus magic, or you get susceptible to insanity. The Scorpion Men have the head of a man, the tail of a scorpion, and the wings of a bird, and their sting of their tail is poisonous, cause death. The Arimathians are humanoids with just one eye, sort of like a cyclops, but except for they're the size of a normal man, so nothing particular about them. Scolopendra, the body and tail of a whale-sized fish. The body is covered with a bunch of arms. They like to ram into ships. Ichthocentaurs is a cross between a triton and a centaur and lives in water. The She is a fairy from Irish myth, about 7 feet tall. It has a number of spells that they can use. And then they expand a little bit on elves, drawing on the Tolkien stories. They've got Sylvan elves, also known as wood elves, and then types of Eldar. You got the light elves, which are the normal elves, Noldor, which are deep elves, and sea elves, which they say would be the same as what's described in the Blackmore supplement book. Peritons, green-feathered bird deer. You remember them from the Monster Manual. Hortas, from Star Trek it says, looks like a lump of rock. Behaves somewhat, bores through rock like an umberhawk. Chon-chons are flying heads. It's a head with wings. For every 10 that are present, you end up with one that has the use of a first-level magic user. And then Cerebrus, which is the mythological three-headed dog, and something they're calling the symbiotic dragon. It's suggested in Greyhawk, but didn't have stats, and essentially their breath weapon spits out a randomly determined type of ooze, slime, or jelly. Okay. Maid Schools, Kevin McCauley's article, says it draws on the Ursula Le Guin's Earthsea books, and essentially the concept there is there's a school you can go to and improve your magic user abilities. They suggest, they like the idea, but apparently suggest it's somewhat limited. Only go in for young magic users, 1st through 3rd level. Intelligence has to be over 14. In return for going to the Maid School and the benefits you're going to get, you have to pledge yourself to, it's either going to be for the law or for chaos, and you have to be completely devoted. They can call you up to help fight forever. And if you fail to respond to a call, then you'll lose all the bonuses that you've gained probably in my campaign you lose some experience points as well. They say we would make it difficult to get there. We'd make you pay for it. Maybe even do a quest or something like that. And they of course say you need to sort of do this early on because no one wants to sit there and role play through going to the school. Essentially what they do is they increase the number of spells you can learn at levels. For example, first level you already get 2 spells instead of 1. You get a bonus on the experience points and you can level up faster. Essentially they're giving you a 33% benefit. I think that's right. 4 experience points for every 3 you earn. So yeah, 33% bonus on experience points. And they said that you'll also be allowed to use any spell and spells of any level. So the intelligence limitations that apply to you would no longer apply because of your extra training. The next thing they have is an article on adventuring on other worlds, and essentially it's just a thought article for dungeon masters about taking your campaign to another world, literally another planet that exists in your universe. At the game review, Battle of the 5 Armies, I think I mentioned. I don't have a slide for that one. And then there's this really big article on naval combat. It's several pages. It just basically gives you a bunch of rules to use if you wanted to end up with a ship-to-ship battle in your Dungeons and Dragons campaign. And finally, we have the Klutzo comic, which this time is Klutzo meets Winterhawk. Just 3 pages this time. Again, really like the artwork. And I'm impressed with the fact that they've got this really well done comic that comes through in every single one of these issues. Dungeon Chronicle, number 3 from 1977. Another fantastic example of the really early work that was being put out, again, associated here with the original set of the rules, back when everybody was adding to the rules, coming up with their own variations of the rules. A great insight into this gaming society from Missouri. Hope you guys are enjoying the series. Hope you're subscribed and hope you'll ask your friends to give our channel a look. Have a great weekend, and until next time, keep rolling 20s.